Hi and hello, football fans. Much to get to with Chris Wesseling and Bucky Brooks. Bucky, first question. Ryan Fitzpatrick, where's he going to be playing this September?
I think he goes to the New York Jets. I don't think he goes anywhere.
Chris Wesseling.
Jets. I don't think anyone else will have him.
Best rookie football name. Chris Wesseling.
Casanova McKenzie, undrafted free agent for the Bucks.
Ooh la la, I love it.
That's a nice name, but I'm going to stay with a star. How about Zeke Elliott? I just like Zeke.
Zeke Elliott.
I just like Zeke.
Not too bad, but of course the
Zeke
correct
is
answer
great.
there. Leonte Carew. I love it. The best Mexican dish. It is Cinco de Mayo as we record. Bucky Brooks, what's your favorite Mexican
Does
dish?
fish tacos count?
Of course, that's a Mexican dish.
I mean, I thought it was
Chris
kind of
Wesseling.
Southern
I
California.
love a stuffed poblano pepper.
Ooh, I don't go that way. I like the al pastor,
yeah.
the pork. I like the swine. Make it a burrito, if you please. Favorite hockey team? The NHL playoffs are going on, Chris Wesseling, after all.
The Cincinnati Stingers, minor league team from my youth.
I thought you might go a little random there. Buck.
Buffalo Sabres.
Really? You like the Sabres? I guess you did spend the early part of your adult life up there in Buffalo. Good for you. Correct answer, Pittsburgh Penguins. And the Cavs' chances. Are you giving them a chance now, Bucky Brooks, or is it still Golden State?
Oh, it's always been the Cavs.
Always been the Cavs. I'm with you on that one, Wes.
San Antonio.
San Antonio
Every year.
Spurs. All right, start the show. There's your hurry up, and welcome to the Dave Damashek football program, available on iTunes, Stitcher, NFL.com/podcasts and beyond. And as always, we are presented by McDonald's. Go get you some of that all-day breakfast anytime it strikes your fancy. When your belly decides it's time for food, put an Egg McMuffin on top of it. Hey, before anything else, about a year ago, maybe a little bit more than that, we were joined in Studio 66 for the retirement announcement of a guy who has become a great friend to everybody here at NFL Media, and I think quite popular with you, the viewer/listener. Ike Taylor, number 24, is celebrating his birthday. Happy birthday to you, Swagga, Sway, 24, my guy, so on and so forth, the incomparable Ike Taylor. I said about a year ago to the bosses, Ike Taylor stands a chance of being pro football's Charles Barkley. Here's his theme song.
Ike Taylor.
He even has a theme song now.
How about that?
Hey, all right, fellas, let's jump into it here. What are we going to do here, Sully behind the glass there and Black Tie behind the glass? I know Black Tie's upset because he doesn't get to weigh in on the NBA question then. He's here because he's for some time now insisted that, oh, no, Kyrie Irving isn't good enough to help the Cavs get the title. They're going to get to the finals, Black Tie, and who knows what
They
will
get
happen.
to the finals every year. There's nobody else in the East.
I got to go with West, though. I'm born and raised in San Antonio. It's got to be the Spurs. Go Spurs, go.
Sully, you're a weird one behind the glass.
I know I am.
You're born and raised in San Antonio. You matriculated the University of Tennessee.
Right.
And yet you're a Seattle Seahawks.
You give me
Inexplicable, and I don't want you to try and rationalize
Can't
it.
even rationalize it.
Bandwagon.
Yep. Go Seahawks.
All right, let's get to it here. What are we going to start with here? You know what? We brought back an old game a couple of weeks ago, and let's get to it here. It's one of our favorites, Dead or Alive.
If your team is playing down, the Shek is saying if you're dead or alive, dead or alive. If you're dead or alive, dead or alive.
I'm going to make a statement. You guys let me know. Dead or alive. I'm going to start with you, Chris Wesseling. And by the way, welcome back to the show, this duo. A dynamic duo to some, but diabolical in my book. Because the last time they sat in here.
You're talking crazy.
No, I was not. You guys ganged up on me like
crazy
bullies. You're like bullies.
Quarterbacks and Terry Bradshaw's number one forever.
We
All that
apologize
other
for
stuff.
bringing a modicum of common sense to
I
your
sure.
quarterback
stand
discussion.
by my words,
Yeah,
and I
unbelievable.
stand strong in the face of your combined nonsense. And here we go. Dead or alive, the Broncos' chances of repeating in 2015 and 2016. Who typed 2016? Say, I'm a dummy. I'm like, what's his name in Anchorman? Will Ferrell in Anchorman. Ron Burgundy. I just read whatever's put in front of me. 2016, Chris Wesseling, dead or alive?
If they're alive, that division should be much tougher this year. The Raiders are better. The Chiefs should probably be just as good. The Chargers are better. But the Broncos, to me, are still the class of that division. They had quarterback problems last year and overcame them.
True enough, Buck.
Alive and well, I will say. Defense will be better than it was last year because they have another system in Wade Phillips' scheme, another year in Wade Phillips' scheme. And then Devontae Booker may be the offensive rookie of the year.
Wow. That's a strong statement, but that's a guy we've been talking about now for 8-10 months now.
Arian Foster, he's an Arian Foster clone. You think about what Arian Foster was able to do in Houston under Gary Kubiak. It's just a natural fit. I love the vision, the footwork. I think it is a great marriage between a player and a system.
So was it a mistake to sign C.J. Anderson to a big contract?
I don't think it was a mistake because you didn't know how the draft would play out. But I think right now he's the most talented runner on their roster. I think C.J. Anderson would get the crack. But when he gets on the field, Devontae Booker is going to do special things in that.
The doctor on call has to weigh in here on the Broncos' chances of repeating, but he might have to look at you. It sounds like you got a little cold there or something, Buck.
I do have a little cold. I want you to know I got fresh up out the bed to come over here.
What a hero. And as a result, Wes and I will have your cold. Thanks a lot.
That's what happens.
Doctor, Broncos, round of applause. Broncos' chances of repeating in 2016. How say you, Doc? All right, they're alive. But let me say this.
Staying alive, staying alive.
I have said repeatedly, obviously, like everybody else, Peyton Manning was the worst starting quarterback in the NFL for anybody who was under center for any stretch of time, at least. And they still won the Super Bowl. And so the knock on Mark Sanchez is that he tends to turn the ball over more than he should. Here's the problem with the defense thing, Buck, is that they stole 4 or 5 games. I mean, it wasn't that they just were a stout defense a la, in recent memory, the Seattle Seahawks, who would just stonewall the competition. The Broncos defense in 2015 outright won games with defensive touchdowns 4 or 5 times, including in the Super Bowl, you might make a case.
Right.
You can't count on that. I mean, that's obviously going to return to the mean. There is no example of a team that just keeps putting up points year after year defensively.
Chicago Bears did it under Lovie Smith. They were consistently a team that
year after year?
They did. Consistently.
They also stayed really healthy last year outside of DeMarcus Ware's back injury. Can they do that again?
Yeah, that another issue. And like you say, Wes may say that they're the class of the division, but winning the division, which is certainly not a guarantee. People love the Raiders. Maybe it's a little premature on their ascent, but they do look like they've added some nice pieces there. Andy Reid's always going to have that team in the mix. The Chargers, I mean, boy, I think they're really going to regret. Joey Bosa, whatever, I think they're really going to regret not taking Laramie Tunsil. I think of all the teams out there, there are 3 teams. I think the Giants are going to regret not having grabbed him when they had a chance. I know the Giants and their these old guard NFL teams don't bring in trouble. They might
see. Here's the thing that we talk about with trouble. It's not necessarily the trouble of what he was depicted doing. It's the timing of it all.
Right.
Because a couple of those guys that win the top 10 had similar issues that Laramie Tunsil experienced during that time. It's the visual image 10 minutes before the draft.
I agree with that.
You don't have enough time to vet it out and see if there's something else that could be coming down the hopper.
If there was a report, 10 minutes before the draft, hey, whoa, Laramie Tunsil apparently burned tree about 4 years ago, people would shrug their shoulders. Like you say, and we've seen this before, it's a 21st century phenomenon. When guys are caught on video doing it, it's a whole
because then you have to get the owner involved.
Yeah.
Right.
You need him to sign off at that point.
You need more time.
And 10 minutes, like you say, is this the start of something now, or are we now going to find out 20 other things about this kid? But I still think, in hindsight, people are going to regret not grabbing Tunsil.
Oh, I think so.
All right, next up, DeMarco Murray's days as a 1,000-yard rusher. Of course, they go get Derrick Henry, the Heisman Trophy winner, do the Tennessee Titans. DeMarco Murray, everybody saw it coming in 2015 after all those yards and all those carries in Dallas in 2014. Are his days as a 1,000-yard rusher dead or alive, Bucky Bro?
Done. Dead.
I agree. I did a study on running backs, and age 23 to 27 is the prime. Starting at age 28, you see a drop-off at 50%. 29, 25%, and 30, 40%. That's the drop-off you typically see He's 28, and he looked pretty bad last year.
Yeah, and
maybe his legs get a little, he didn't have a big workload. Maybe they get a little fresher this year, but.
And there are exceptions that prove the rule. Of course, you can look at Frank Gore and Fred Jackson to a lesser degree. But, I mean, look at the all-time great running backs who are getting a ton of carries. I mean, you know what? There is a significant drop-off at right around the age Wes is talking about it. You get 5, 6, 7 years in. Look up Earl Campbell. Look up O.J. Simpson. Guys who got a big workload at roughly the mid-20s. They take a precipitous drop as they near 30.
The pounding that he endured that season, that he had a great season in Dallas. He's always been kind of injury prone. He's never been a guy that's had tremendous physical traits in terms of size, burst, explosiveness. He's just kind of an every down grinder. Well, now you bring in a young back, a fresh back, a guy in Derrick Henry who he really gets better when he gets over 20, 25 carries. So I'm the Tennessee Titans. DeMarco Murray starts off the season as the number one, but I fully believe by the middle of the season it switches and the young guy becomes kind of the bell cow. And anytime you have a guy that can get hot like that, a Derrick Henry that can get hot, I think he's the one that they ride. Say they have postseason hopes, he's the fella that they ride for the
Interesting. All right, let's hear from the doctor. What's the diagnosis here? All right. He's more optimistic than at least you two. I'm kind of on the fence with this one because of Derrick Henry. You know, they go and get him from Philadelphia. Of course, like you say, it's funny the hindsight thing that fans and, in fact, media use, which is like, then why'd they go get DeMarco Murray if they were going to draft Derrick Henry? Because they didn't know how things were going to break. That's
you always want to be protected. And look, DeMarco Murray very well could have been a guy that would get 1,200 yards behind that offensive line, behind the commitment to the run game that the Titans are going to display. But if Mike Mularkey is being true to his premise where he said he want to have an exotic smash mouth attack, that means that he wants to have anywhere between 35 and 40 carries a game. All of those won't go to DeMarco Murray. And once Derrick Henry gets touches, he's going to get more touches because I think he's a little different than some of the other backs in the league.
Well, it's funny, first of all, with Derrick Henry, but real quick on Murray, isn't the notion that with Mariota back there with him and Mariota putting it in his belly and running down the line and attacking the edge of the defense, doesn't that mean that as a downhill runner that this should suit? If any offense is going to, a guy playing the way Mariota is going to should suit him. And behind that O-line, as you say.
You would like to think that, but how much zone read will they really run with Mariota? Because the big mandate from ownership has been to keep Mariota healthy. So how much are you going to expose him to runs on the perimeter? It may be a deal where you do it 4 or 5 times a game. He does it on the perimeter. But remember, we saw in Philadelphia, DeMarco Murray is not at his best when he has to run laterally and has to do some of the things that is required of the zone read. Maybe Derrick Henry is the guy that's in that package doing some of those things because that's what he did at Alabama. Even though we say he's a downhill runner, he operated primarily out of the shotgun, and they ran some of those zone read things even though the quarterback didn't pull much.
Isn't Henry, though, the book on him was that because of the long legs, and as we've seen few guys succeed at that size at this position, it takes him a second to get up to speed. I'm not looking for big things out of him. I mean, he might be a specialist at the goal line, but I don't think he's a guy who's going for 1,400 anytime soon.
Well, I mean, I don't know. He kind of reminds me of Eddie George. And so if you think about Eddie George being able to work the edges on those off-tackle runs, being able to
I
take
feel like he's not as fluid, though, right?
They're about the same because Eddie George wasn't like a necessarily a nimble, easy jump cutter like LaDainian Thompson. It's hard. Like, the dude is 6'3", 6'4", 240 pounds. How he runs is not going to look like a scat back like a Lamar Miller or some of those other guys. But it's about giving him enough carries where he can wear down the defense. I can attest that no one wants to have to deal with a 240-pound running back at the end of the year. We saw what Bus was able to do in November and December for the Steelers in yesteryear. Derrick Henry can give you some of that physicality and toughness.
One thing we forget in May when we talk about these things and look at the depth chart, no matter what the coaches are saying, once the season starts, it's episodical in nature from week to week. The episode changes. The fans are going to start calling for Henry if he outplays Murray, and the coaches are going to see that. It changes every week once the season starts.
How will that go over, Sully, behind the glass for the people in Nashville, Tennessee, presumably Vols fans to
Right.
rooting on a Crimson Tide.
They've quickly switched. A lot of my buddies
they
that are
have.
Vols fans have welcomed him with open arms so far. I mean, it's going to be tough, but he's in the powder blue and the dual shade blue, so he's not a Bammer anymore. He's a Titan.
Next up, Chris Wesseling. Let's, we are a full-service show here, not just pro football. We attack all games, including the game called life. Right now, pro basketball is the subject. Kevin Durant's days in OKC, Chris Wesseling, dead or alive after this season concludes.
It's funny how one game can change things. The sky was falling after game 1, and now people think the Thunder have a chance to steal this series. I think they're alive. I think they were alive before anyway, but yes, they're alive.
He can sign the one-year deal and extend it and line himself up with Russell Westbrook if he wants to. Bucky Brooks.
I think they're alive. I don't think there's any chance that he was going to leave OKC after this year. It's lined up for him. He has a superstar that he's playing with in Russell Westbrook. They're a 1-2 punch, and wherever he goes, he has to face the same criticism. And actually, if he leaves, he faces more criticism because then the clock really starts on him winning the championship. I think he's been able to escape and fly under the radar. He doesn't get nearly the criticism that LeBron
No,
got,
he doesn't. Isn't that right?
and some of the other superstars get for not winning titles. In Oklahoma City, he's kind of safe and tucked away.
Do you think he considers that? Do you think a 21st century athlete considers that if I go somewhere in a bigger market, boy, they might boo me if I don't start winning titles?
No, I don't think that's it. I think he looks at the pieces around him, and I would say it would be hard-pressed to find another player like a Russell Westbrook to pair with. I know people are holding on to this fantasy that he's coming to La La Land, but I don't think that's happening unless multiple superstars decide to go to L.A.
Yeah, that's
I think OKC is the best spot for him.
All right, let's check in with the doctor here. How say you, Doc? Doctor, feeling good today. He doesn't want to deliver any bad news.
No bad news.
Yeah, I guess he's not going to go anywhere, especially, but like Wes says, one game, how about, 3 more games? If the Spurs whip them good here, if they really take it to them, it's going to feel like it's never going to happen here, so I may as well move on. I could see it changing a little bit depending on how this series concludes, but you know what? Like I said before the season started, or at least midway through the season, I really liked OKC coming into this because while the story is Westbrook and Durant, and in fact you have 2 of the top 5 NBA players, how bad can you be? It's almost baffling. They really struggle in the final couple minutes of the games. That's where they're headed.
They don't have a high collective basketball IQ.
Yeah, but the other thing is I love their front line rotation. I know people say it doesn't matter against Golden State.
Steven Adams looks like a medieval badass.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, he's a tough kid. And if you're really looking at it, how many more games can LaMarcus Aldridge play to the level that he's playing?
He's
a
on
good
fire.
player.
I know,
a
but
really good player. Can he hit 40 games throughout the series?
Yeah, but the thing is, the Spurs lost the last game because Kawhi Leonard could take his guy off the dribble every time and didn't assert himself offensively, and he can.
They're like a two-man show too. Like as much you want to say about San Antonio.
That's true.
What we're seeing is the rapid decline of Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan is basically like me on the court. They don't have many guys outside of Kawhi Leonard and LaMarcus Aldridge. Like
Kawhi is a legitimate top, 6 or 7 player in the
3?
league. I mean, maybe. Yeah, you could certainly say
he's a
that.
nice
But
two-way player,
when
yeah.
the Spurs are winning titles, and it was obviously pretty recent that they did, Tony Parker, as much respect as people have for him, man, he gets into that place of like a poor man's Russell Westbrook where he's unstoppable. When he wants to get to the rim, he gets to the rim.
He's also the worst defensive point guard in the NBA right now.
Yeah, so he's like, the enthusiasm about the Spurs going forward, I do not share. Black Tie, Dr. Black Tie, I know you want to weigh in on this important issue.
I think the chances are alive here because I do think the Spurs and the Warriors are 2 of the best teams of the last 20 years. I think they're legit.
2 of the best.
They are. I mean,
last
you have
20 years.
easily. You have a team that won
That's certainly gotta be
73
true.
games
By
and
record.
the best Spurs team on the pop. I don't see how we're the fear of being prisoner of the moment stops us from noticing greatness as it's happening.
I just noticed that they lost.
TD, very well said. I don't understand any criticism of Kevin Durant for losing to 2 of the best teams of the last 20 years.
I know it is a shame. The one I always cite when things like this happen. Well, I can actually cite two from my personal fandom. One currently is the Pittsburgh Pirates in the National League Central. They've been they've been the second best team in baseball. They just so happen to share the division with the best team in baseball. Previously, the St. Louis Cardinals, and now they're in there with the Chicago Cubs, who look like a juggernaut.
The last 20 years, we're at the back end of the Jordan era, right? 96, 97, 98. So I mean, I think we have to be careful when we just throw that out there. Two of the best teams of the last 20 years.
Well, the Bulls are another one.
We haven't seen the Warriors repeat. We don't know if they're going to repeat. They have a frail shooting guard, point guard, and Steph Curry, who we don't know if he's going to be able to make it through. And then with the Spurs, I just need to see.
You know what it is? I mean, I don't know.
Throw that out there.
The Spurs just win every year. Come on, Buck.
We work so fast in our brains that we fail to sort of celebrate the present.
Exactly.
You know, there's something how fast we have to. It's sort of like the draft experience. You know, you in January, February, you start to dig in on these guys, and you start to really look at them, and then you fall in love. In fact, Charles Davis, who was in earlier in the week, was talking about this phenomenon. In February, you look at the best player, and you know he's the best player, Jared Goff or Carson Wentz, and you really look at them. And the closer it gets, you start to get bored. You have to, we have to move. I have to find problems with this, and then you complain. And it's so accelerated. It's our inability to really appreciate Cam Newton right now. You know, that we're looking at a Hall of Fame player, a guy who the league has never seen, and yet we're looking to poke holes in what's wrong with him rather than say, you know, Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and Drew Brees could only dream of doing what number one's doing down there in Charlotte. But we're more interested in telling you what is flawed about the guy. But anyway, so Black Tie, that's Black Tie's fault with LeBron. Black Tie doesn't want to give LeBron the credit.
He doesn't appreciate it.
No, that's
He doesn't want to do it.
I actually got into a Twitter.
He has to
argument.
move on about like that LeBron is what's wrong with
See,
LeBron.
I'm not one side or the other. It's just like things change. I actually got in a Twitter argument once with Chris Wesseling because I said LeBron's already top 3 and he's already better than Larry Bird. And I mean, I think LeBron's great. I just think he's not on such a great team as the Warriors and Spurs. It's a team basketball game.
Oh no, I didn't say that. I didn't say LeBron's Cavs team is the best or one of the best in the last 20 years. I just think we have to be careful when we just say like, "Hey, the Warriors, you're the best."
All right, in this case, that's not hyperbole. The ones set the record for wins.
No, the record, but also remember the NBA is different because if you go back and you take hand checking out when Jordan and those other guys are playing, how many points does Jordan average when you can't put your hand in his back?
I've
All
talked
of
to
them.
Matt Money
All the
Smith
points.
and his highly considered NBA opinions. I've asked him the same thing. Everybody cites the hand check rule. Yeah, but if you put it in, it would be league wide, and so they would have to accommodate for it. They would have, today's players would have to adjust to that. Are you saying that Golden State would be incapable of adjusting?
Completely different. The way Steph skips and skates through the lane. No way, you can't do that stuff.
Derek Harper
I'm not even
all
talking.
over.
I'm not even talking about the old bad boys, but I'm talking about the Ben Wallace, Chauncey Billups. Those guys, they would put him on his back. So I love Steph Curry and what he does to the table, but the fact that there's no physicality in the league, he couldn't do those same things. He wouldn't be able to skate and whatever. And I know Ty's gonna be like, "Oh, but he shoots from deep." It's different when you're shooting from deep when everyone knows that that's the only thing you can do.
When you're not
he
gonna...
now can penetrate. They would put him on his back.
All right, next up. Steph Curry, a little bit slight. He sat in Studio 66 with us about a month ago. Tyler Boyd. I was struck by his Kevin Durant-like physique. He has those slight shoulders, but I love looking at him out on the field. So fluid.
Who's your guy? He's
got the hips. He's got the loose hips, as you scouts like
Oily.
to say. He's not a blazer.
He's a Panther.
That's right.
You were loving him.
I do love him, but as I always say, also
More
as a Pitt
decorated
fan,
than Larry Fitzgerald. More accomplished.
I don't know about that.
He was.
Statistically, he was?
Yes.
Well, he also.
I know y'all like
Larry
stats.
Fitzgerald
Y'all
had Rod Rutherford throwing to him.
You just cited stats for the Warriors being the best team in the last 20 years. So when I tell you that Tyler Boyd is the all-time receiving
I know.
leader
But Bucky.
the numbers is
But
the same
Bucky,
thing.
come on, man.
It's the same thing.
Here's something that has to change.
He ask more now.
I'm putting my foot down now. All people who talk about college football have to stop saying, well, he had more career yardage. You know why? Because he played 10 more games. That's why. They used to standardly, as you know, Buck, 11-game regular season and then a bowl game.
He played 12 games.
No. Now they play 13 games plus a conference championship.
They played 12 games. 12 games is the regular season minimum. Then if you go to a conference title game, you play
All right.
13 and whatever. So he played 12 games. Did they go to bowl games? I don't know if Pitt went to bowl games. Did they go to any bowl games?
I'm done talking about this.
Yeah, I don't
Let me
know.
tell you something, Bucky. You and I both share the sad truth of both our schools, UNC and Pitt. I didn't go to Pitt, but it's my college football team I root for. Both produce a lot of high-end NFL talent, and yet struggle to go 6-6. It seems.
We didn't go 6-6.
I know.
Last
But
year,
you
you
know
had
what
a
I'm
very
saying.
good year.
I think you.
I can only
understand
remember.
the
I enjoy the most recent memories.
Good for you. All right, let's get to it here. Tyler Boyd, I wanted to show you a little something. Black Tie, do you want me to first show you? That's the question. I'm sorry. First, the sound bite. Well, I'm sorry.
Guy's cracking
Okay.
up.
Shek's fandom of Tyler Boyd. He's now a Cincinnati Bengal. So you see, that's kind of what we're talking about here, Buck. Shek's fandom of Tyler Boyd, is it dead or alive, Chris Wesseling? Will I be able to rise above the fact that he's wearing that ugly orange and black uniform and appreciate that he came from Pitt?
He looks like a tiger.
I've seen the jousting matches between you and Bengals fans on Twitter. He's dead. He's dead to me, too, because the Bengals are dead to me.
That's right. Bucky.
Wow, he's dead to you. I would say that hopefully you're able to rise above that because you met the young man. You're a devoted Pittsburgh Panther fan. And I would say that you recognize that he's going to get great coaching in Cincinnati and that you still will carry the flame for Tyler Boyd.
What, they hired a new coach over there?
No, they have Marvin Lewis.
Oh.
5 straight.
Oh,
Five
yeah.
straight.
Terrific.
5 straight.
5
Out of the playoffs on opening weekend.
5
Bucky,
straight.
he's 0-7 in the
He is.
postseason. I don't know if you heard about that.
How many games would Pittsburgh win with
Hey,
Andy
the
Dalton
Red
at quarterback?
Rifle's going to be throwing the ball to
How
Tyler.
many games would Pittsburgh win with Andy Dalton?
I mean, I don't even know how to answer that
I know.
question. Tyler Boyd answered a question. What do you think about if a team like the Cincinnati Bengals were to draft you, Tyler Boyd? Do you care? Because this is fans like me think like, well, you're from Pittsburgh. You want to be a Steeler, right?
Right.
You won't. Will there be any moment of like, the Bengals? If that happens, or will you be like, woohoo? You know?
Yeah, I feel you. If I was to go to the Bengals, I think a lot of people wouldn't.
Well, because of the helmet alone,
Yeah,
the
you know, 'cause
uniforms are no
that's
good.
a rival for the Steelers, So me coming in, playing against my hometown, trying to beat them, some people would still support me, but they still go with the Steelers, just because it's the hometown team. But they would still be supportive.
See, at least he's a man of high fashion. He's got the tiger stripes. Even
he knew.
he kind of did.
He
That.
had a sense that they were on the radar.
He
I love
sounded
that-
deflated.
I love that the poor kid comes in here and now he's actually a Bengal, and now I'm playing it back for him, and now the people of the Queen City will be like, wait a minute. All right, let's get to it. Dr. Shek's fandom of Tyler Boyd, dead or alive? It's dead.
Really?
I can't root for him. He plays for the Cincinnati Bengals. What do you want me to do?
You can't pull for your team, but
I hope he has
Another
I hope he has a great and healthy career, but I don't hope it results in victories for his team. And
what about if he has like 150 yards each game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but it's still his win?
Okay,
You okay with that?
that will be fine with me. Hey, I was challenged morally, ethically, and otherwise. Our repeat Shecky Award winner, A.J. Hawk, one of our favorites here, went to the Cincinnati Bengals, and it created a moral conundrum for me. And when faced with it, I told A.J. Hawk to his face in front of the January playoff game in Cincinnati, I said, Hawk, fan of yours, not a fan of that terrible team you play for. My heart is 100% with the Pittsburgh Steelers, or shame the devil. A.J. Hawk said, I respect it. He said, I respect your stance on this one. I'll thank you to do the same, Bucky. All right, let's move on now. Thus ends Dead or Alive. Oh,
Surprise
it's time
game
for
show
a,
time.
Like
time
game
for a
show.
surprise game show. All right. I
Yeah.
love it. When I first moved out here to Los Angeles, I worked on a sports trivia show on Fox Sports. It was called Sports Geniuses. And the best part of it was at the end of every show, the championship round would be two guys face to face, and you had to name. It was basically, here's a list of something. Now tick off the items from it. I mean, you might have been in here. We did it once before in here, Bucky. It was quarterbacks who lost in the first 20 Super Bowls, and we went back and forth. And maybe you weren't here. I won that day, but it's time to do it again. It's
Right.
time for the surprise game show. Yes, Sully. You're our host today.
Our question is, fellas, which pass catchers have had 100 yards or more in a Super Bowl? Starting with you, Shek.
Pass catchers with over 100 yards in a Super Bowl. Super Bowl MVP, Super Bowl 10, Lynn Swann.
Yep.
Bucky Brooks. And by the way, we go until you run out. If you miss one, it moves on. It should be self-evident, but
Larry Fitzgerald.
that's got to be right, yeah.
Jerry Rice.
Oh, yeah, that's
Oh, I can do that twice, right?
you
Yeah,
know
he did
what?
it multiple times.
You know what? I'm going to go with another Super Bowl MVP. This one from Super Bowl 43. His name, Santonio Holmes. No, he won the MVP. Of course he got 100 yards.
Am I up?
Yeah, you're up. Don't delay now.
I didn't know I was up.
Well, didn't you? Well, you didn't know, so that gets you an extra 10 seconds at
I
least.
didn't know. I was trying to figure it out.
Stop your vamping!
I'm debating between Jordy Nelson and Greg Jennings. In that
Well, you
Super
should
Bowl.
say one of them.
I'm trying to figure out. Because Greg,
Hit the buzzer
Greg
on
Jennings
him
had a
already.
thing. Let's go with Jordy Nelson. Ha! Go Pack, go.
Wes.
Michael Irvin.
Ooh, I was.
What Super Bowl was that?
He's the highest playoff yards per game in history, I think. Well, Steve Smith does.
This guy has to. Oh, you know what? Masin Muhammad. That one reminded me of something from Wes and I playing Win Wes's Toaster. I owe Wes a couple of sandwiches, but that's from the Around the NFL podcast, which you have to go dig up. Oh, we were in such a hurry, I forgot to introduce Move the Sticks podcast. Dig that one up, and Around the NFL, Wesseling, Hanzus, Rosenthal, and Sessler doing gangbusters work. I'm sorry, I had to get that in, Black Tie. That was a little commercial. They do that on game shows sometimes. Yes, Bucky.
Let's go with Andre Reed. Ha! I had four chances. Somewhere in there he had to go.
Yeah, Wes.
I'm going way back. Max McGee.
Ooh, I don't know if he went
Did he
for
have
101. I don't know. He got 2 touchdowns, but whoa!
Oh, yeah.
He survived.
I was confident. 130 something.
All right, I'm running through my head here.
I'm running.
Oh, I mean, a guy who could have been a Super Bowl MVP in Super Bowl 14. He broke the hearts of the Rams fans, John Stallworth. Yes, what do you mean? He got a 64-yard touchdown pass in that game. So don't worry about that one, Buck. It's on there.
A lot of Steelers on this list, so Shek has a little advantage.
I'm sorry, when Super Bowls are the subject, their Steelers are going to come up, I'm afraid.
I didn't say anything, but I'm thinking of the Washington Redskins.
Okay.
I'm just trying to figure out if I got the right guy.
Me too. I got the same conundrum going on.
I'm thinking Ricky Sanders.
Oh, yeah, that's definite. No, that's 100%.
I don't know.
It's 100%, Buck. He definitely went over 100.
He caught a bomb. He just caught a bomb.
Yeah, no, he had a big game.
God, I had Gary Clark.
What's that, Black? 193. Oh, not even close. 193 in that game against the Broncos off the right arm of Doug Williams. Wes, how say you?
I'm going to go to the same well. Gary Clark.
Oh, against the Bills, that would have had to have been. There are a couple other DC guys out there.
I can't even remember who played in the
Am I going to be out first here? Because if I am, that's going to be awfully embarrassing. You know what? Oh, I know. Of course, yeah, the other MVP. I was wondering if it's another black and gold wide receiver, Super Bowl MVP, XL, 86, Hines Ward. Definite. He caught a long pass from Randall L. and caught a desperation heave by 7 at the goal line.
Deion Branch.
Super Bowl
yeah,
MVP.
Super Bowl MVP. True. Wes, we're doing quite well collectively. I think we deserve a pass.
I'm in the guessing.
I'm digging deep.
I'm in the guessing portion of the program now. Torrey Holt.
That makes sense. All right, I'm gonna go. That's a good one. Then I'm gonna go Isaac Bruce. He caught what was that one? Like a 75-yarder?
80
Yeah.
yard. That's almost like cheating. Defect.
Yeah, that.
If you guys finish this list, I'm going to be very impressed.
That's almost like.
How many more do we have to go here?
You got a while to go. This might take forever, but
Right.
it's,
Go
it's
ahead.
a
I've got
slow
one I think is right in the back of my head here.
Gosh, I'm almost tapped out. Fucking giant Super Bowl. How about Antonio Freeman? Ha!
Ooh, well done.
Digging.
Uh,
Because I don't know.
Dwight Clark.
What's that, Black Tie? Black Tie's talking in my. Freeman did it twice, so he did it in back-to-back games. Chris Wesseling. What? You ran the buzzer on him. I don't know, but Bucky Brooks had about 7 minutes to come up with it.
No,
I know.
I said Dwight Clark.
No, he said Dwight Clark.
Yeah.
Dwight
Oh, I
Clark
didn't
is
hear
not
you
on
say
the
Dwight
list.
Clark.
Yes,
Dwight
yes, he's not on the
Yeah,
list.
I'm
it's
sorry.
personal.
All right. I'm going to go.
So now it's just between Bucky and Shek.
I have two that I'm thinking about here. This might be a little early. I should be able to come up with someone else, and it's embarrassing if there's a Steeler out there that I'm missing. That would really humiliate me. I'm going to go with here, from Super Bowl 16, Dan Ross.
Don't think so.
Yeah! He had a bit. Kenny
Like
Anderson
11
drove
catches.
him late. Yeah, Kenny Anderson drove him late and kept peppering the ball to him right at the end of the game there. Nice. Damashek does it again.
How about John Taylor?
It's a good guess.
He had 2 touchdowns. I don't think he had 100 yards.
Come on now. Throw that buzzer. Yeah! Damashek.
How about Eddie Brown?
David Shek wins.
Brown did.
I just want to see if Eddie Brown from Cincinnati.
I don't
No?
think he did. Did Boyd
Chris
Dowler?
Matthews, come on, guys. Happened 2
Oh,
Super Bowls
who?
ago.
Chris Matthews.
Matthews.
Seahawks.
I was thinking about him, but
He
I
had 100 yards?
Yeah, in the first half. If I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken.
Oh, you know who's another good one? What about Gronk?
Gronk, I don't think he's.
Ooh.
Vernon?
He
Vernon
didn't get it?
Davis is
Julian Edelman?
Yeah.
yeah.
How about Chris Collinsworth?
Chris Collinsworth? Yes.
That was my other one. Good. I would have stayed alive because Collinsworth would have been my next one. How about Drew Pearson? Or Tony Hill?
Nope.
I don't
Jay Novacek?
How about Boyd Dowler?
Boyd Dowler. Nope.
Boyd Dowler's a good one from two.
Those Cowboy Super Bowls were never close.
You guys missed Michael Crabtree, John Henderson, Hakeem
John
Nicks.
Henderson.
John.
Wait, read it again.
Jaguars defensive
Sully.
tackle?
No, not a Tennessee Vols.
Read them out loud. Who'd we miss?
Okay, Rod Smith. I don't think you got Rod Smith, 99. George Sauer, AFL days.
Jets.
Willie Galt, go Vols, 86.
Willie Galt went for over 100 in that
yeah,
game.
Yep, you did. Larry Fitz.
We got Fitz. We got Fitz.
Okay, you got Fitz. Vance Johnson.
Broncos.
Demarius Thomas.
He had 100.
That
Oh yeah, he had a good in 48.
Bad
He
job by us.
remember I think he ended up with the most catches in a Super Bowl.
Julian Edelman, yeah, he did have it. We already said that. Hakeem Nicks. Vernon Davis, like we said. Anquan Bolden.
Rod Smith caught a deep ball in
Roger
Elway's
Craig.
second Super Bowl win.
Roger Craig. Wes Welker. Yep.
Wow.
Roger Craig, huh?
pass catchers.
Yeah, he had a good one in, I guess, Super Bowl 19.
He's the only running back.
Is that yeah, right. And Dan Ross then is the only tight end.
Vernon Davis, too.
Vernon Davis and Dan Ross.
Oh, I missed Vernon Davis's shout out there. All right, let's move on here. We just talked about pass catchers and post-draft and more or less post-free agency, although it continues to roll here. Now let's talk about best and worst position groups. This is something that we will do going forward over the next month or so here on the DDFP. And we'll start out with, it is a quarterback league, so let's start out with quarterback. Who's got the best position group right now? Bucky Brooks. This is, I think, let me say in advance, I think worst position group is going to be much more satisfying, and I think every other position group is going to be more fun. Because what you're really talking about when you say best quarterback group is who has the best QB. Because the back, it's murky. Because are you going to say Aaron Rodgers if he's the best quarterback, but then Brett Hundley is his backup? So do you like that? more than you like Andy Dalton and A.J. McCarron, as a for instance. I'm sorry, I don't want to take your answer, Bucky.
That would kind of be close. Because the depth from top to bottom, that would be a good one. Let's see. That's a tough one. Best one.
We can just skip this almost because it's. I mean, all of this is subjective, of course, but like I say, it depends on what you like. Do you like? I mean, Roethlisberger, Landry Jones, Bruce Gradkowski. I mean, that's not bad. That's three guys who you could play. That would be.
Are we
fine.
doing purely quarterbacks here?
Right now, we're just doing QB.
That's a tough one.
I go whichever team has Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. So, all right, let's skip the best QB.
Brad Hundley led the preseason in passer rating for whatever that's worth.
I kind of like that as a duo, and I can't think of who their third is. So let's move on to, and we'll talk right now, at going into 2016, worst quarterback group. Because people are Dan Hanzus of around the NFL is wringing his hands about the Jets situation there.
Why?
Although Bucky and Wes seem to think Fitzpatrick's going to join it soon, so that will.
You could do what Fitzpatrick did.
Wow.
I agree with that. I think this enthusiasm that Jets fans have, and
I just think it's so funny that they're so nostalgic and so broken up about Ryan Fitzpatrick. If we went back and rewound the clock, were they that excited about Ryan Fitzpatrick headed into the season?
If I hear one more time that he had the best quarterback season in Jets history, I'm going to lose my mind.
I mean,
because he's throwing to Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker, and everyone throws for 4,500 yards these days. You can't compare it to even what Vinny Testaverde did 15 years ago or anything Namath did.
Yeah, I mean, it's just funny that he is the anointed guy. Like, oh, we have to have Fitzpatrick. And
boy, he's going to derail our chances at a Super Bowl run. We better get that bearded guy back in here.
He is what he is. He showed you exactly what he was. The last game of the year with the playoff game on the line, he threw 3 picks.
The other 31 teams have shown us who he is too, because they're not going after him.
No one is excited about.
Nevertheless, people do want him back in there, and you guys both said at the top of the show you think he does go back to.
Because I think he comes back with his between his legs.
So who do they kick to the curb then?
Bryce Petty.
Bryce Petty, 1 year in. I love the way that guy throws the football. He looks like an NFL passer to me. No?
McCagnon drafted Petty. He inherited Geno Smith.
He did, but I think the situation is if you feel like your team has an opportunity to really make the playoffs. Geno Smith was leading that quarterback derby heading into the year before he took the fatal punch to the jaw. And so if I remove Geno Smith from that means I have to lean on either Christian Hackenberg or Bryce Petty if Ryan Fitzpatrick goes down. And remember, Ryan Fitzpatrick got hurt last year. He ended up didn't he have a procedure so he could come back and play? He didn't miss
a week. His left hand.
Yeah. And so Geno had to do – so if you're saying that you're confident enough that you're going to go into the season with Hackenberg and Petty as your 2 and 3, I just don't think a rational coach or front office would say this is what I feel good about. I think it's more about Bryce Petty being the guy that is the last one out, and Hackenberg now becomes the developmental quarterback.
That's fair, dog.
I said on the last show with Charles Davis, and like most other people, he sort of scoffed at my stance on this. I don't use the advanced metrics. What he did at the combine is not my concern. The eyeballs serve Damashek well when it comes to quarterbacks. All right, I swung and missed on Ryan Mallett last year. I'm not responsible for what they do off the field. I can't keep track of these guys.
I haven't gotten my sandwich yet.
Yeah,
that's true. I do owe Wes a sandwich for that. But
Mallett, the last 2 games in Baltimore.
Thank you, Bucky. And you know who else I like? I like Christian Hackenberg. I understand the inaccuracy issues, but as Wes says, Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker do a nice job of covering that up.
They expand the strike zone. The only problem with Hack, and I'm a Hackenberg fan, and I think he can be the right quarterback for them in time. Man, when your completion percentage is always in the mid-50s level, it is just accuracy is something that typically doesn't improve when you get to the pros because you're dealing with faster defenders, tighter windows, and you're dealing with a faster pass rush. For him to succeed in New York, it's going to have to be a system that's tailored to what he does very, very well. He does have guys who expand the strike zone in Decker and Marshall, and you have a quarterback-friendly running back in Matt Forte who is really good out the backfield. He can succeed, but I won't think that he'll be ready as a rookie to be able to do that. Maybe in year 2, he can handle some of those responsibilities. That's why I think you have to have Geno Smith on board.
I think the kid's been through a lot, so mentally and emotionally.
I mean, there's a lot, but remember the pressure, because already in New York they're talking about him being the guy. That New York media, the pressure, being in the fire, having to deal with all those things. Can he handle that stuff right away while still trying to fix his footwork in his game? I had a chance to watch the John Gruden telecast when they talked about the quarterback camp, and I thought it was very revealing in terms of what he was able to do as a freshman and how they changed his footwork and messed up his mechanics. I think it takes a while, much like when a golfer goes to a golf pro and he kind of revamps his swing. I think it'll take a while for Hackenberg to find his groove, but if they're patient, they can reap huge benefits off of it.
So, Wes, whether it's Fitzpatrick, I think that'll shake things up a little bit, but I think we agree that Ryan Fitzpatrick isn't finishing with a gold jacket either way, so maybe we keep the Jets in this group even if they do have Fitzpatrick in there. Who's your least favorite quarterback group going into the season right now?
I have to go Browns. I think they've sent a clear signal that they're not competing this year. They're building. Because if they were competing, they would have tried to get a quarterback who can stay healthy for more than 3 games, and I don't see one on that roster.
What do you think about the Cody Kessler pick there? I feel like, again, another example of when they signed RG3 and he was in love with him and everything else. I declared it hubris. I declare Cody Kessler when no one else had this guy on their radar. But Hugh Jackson has fallen in love with it. More hubris in my book. How say you, Buck?
Well, yeah, it's definitely a Hugh Jackson pick. He even said as much at the press conference. What I am hopeful and confident on, I know Hugh's track record. From all the quarterbacks that he's dealt with, he's found a way to really help those guys have success. Jason Campbell in Oakland, dealing with some of the other quarterbacks that he's had throughout his time, he understands how to put them in a situation where they can succeed. The RG3 thing is different because RG3's lack of durability is a concern. However, when you think about what he was able to do with Andy Dalton and A.J. McCarron, kind of build systems for them to thrive, I think he's going to put RG3 in a spread system that is going to be very similar to what he did at Baylor, and I think he'll have success. The deal with Cody Kessler, he has all the intangibles that you look for. He's a winning guy. He's a guy's guy. He has the leadership stuff. He's going to have to learn how to throw with touching, timing, and anticipation.
I have to
If
interrupt.
it wasn't,
Cody Kessler's a guy's guy?
yeah,
What does that mean?
it means that guys in the locker room would gravitate to him because he doesn't have some of the egotistical cockiness that some quarterbacks walk into the locker room with. He's a guy that they kind of galvanize around, they kind of play for, and that he'll be fine. If you look at his history at USC, he was never supposed to be the starting quarterback. All the guys that they trotted in, Max Whittick, Max Brown, all of those guys were highly decorated, had more stars than Cody Kessler, but he found a way to get a job, and he found a way to win a lot of games. And so,
You know who's got that? Kirk Cousins is such a – I mean, that
and sometimes
that
matters,
enthusiasm and compliment. I mean, really, like on a human level, as I always say, I wouldn't want to play with Dan Marino or Peyton Manning, who yells at me for messing up. I would need someone like Kirk Cousins, like, you're the best, man. We can't win without you. Thanks for making. That kind of thing I would respond to. I kind of buy what you're saying.
I think that's a really good example about Kirk Cousins, what Jay Gruden was able to do for Kirk Cousins. Regardless of whether you believe Kirk Cousins is a franchise quarterback, he played really well in that system. It was a lot of dink and dunks. The ball came out fast, but that's today's football. Tom Brady operates in a system that's similar to that. With Cody Kessler, I think you can put some of those things in play. The only issue that I have, if it wasn't in a AFC North division where you have to deal with inclement conditions and stuff like that, I would worry about you, because just the arm strength kind of troubles me a little bit.
And last thing, our Cerberus Award, someone behind the glass, I'm not sure who it was, maybe it was Sully, declared it because it's a three-headed dog we're talking about here. Who's the three-headed dog at quarterback in the NFL? Cerberus is the mythical beast with 3 heads. And so do we give it to the Jets, the Browns, or the Broncos? And, in fact, hit me up at DDFP. Use the hashtag DDFP. Let us know. We did it about a year ago, the worst quarterback groups in NFL history. It's a lot of fun. 98, the Giants had Kent Graham, Danny Cannell, and Mike Cherry? I don't even know who might remember Mike Cherry.
Mike Cherry, did he play at Rutgers?
02, the Cleveland Browns had Tim Couch, Doug Peterson, and Spurgeon Wynn. It's fun to suss out the worst ever. But the 2016 Cerberus Award goes to who in your book, Chris Wesseling? You're going Browns, you said. But
No.
what about the Broncos with what they?
Oh, I thought you were talking about historically.
No. Well, let's the Broncos. We've been over this, and I guess we'll see with Sanchez and Paxton Lynch. But Bucky and Wes, you know who I see in the pro comp with Paxton Lynch? Poor man's Colin Kaepernick. Fair?
I mean, I think that's fair. I think it's interesting that he compared himself to Cam Newton. Said that that's the guy that he modeled his game after. That's how he would like to play, to run a little bit, throw a little bit. He likes celebrating, like being enthusiastic. I just wonder if he'll take some of the incoming, if he's as enthusiastic.
I think he's all
as Cam Newton.
fastballs. He's all fastballs like Colin Kaepernick and Dave Dameshek. That's why I'm not in the NFL. Like they can't teach me touch, no matter what the coaches have tried. It's all 110 miles an hour for Dameshek.
All fastballs.
And that's the same thing with Paxton Lynch, but not as good as Colin Kaepernick, sorry to say. Wes, what do you think?
Browns.
Browns are the Cerberus Award winner. Who's the worst QB group in 2016? Buck. If you want to go off the table here, I got Jets, Browns, Broncos.
I'm going to say the Houston Texans. I would be more worried about.
Oh,
Really?
I like it. I like it.
Okay.
Osweiler, Brandon Whedon, and who else?
You called Peyton Manning the worst quarterback in the NFL last year.
Who played for any
Brock
stretch of time?
Osweiler got benched for him.
Oh, Tom Savage.
Well, that was crazy. That was
I got it in my ear that it's Tom
Tom Savage. That's right, yeah.
Osweiler,
He doesn't
Brandon
exist.
Whedon, and Tom Savage. Like, think about that.
All right. Listen,
I like this.
that's legit, and yet I dare say that they're going to win the division again. Boy, that division is
But
fascinating.
it's made for them
Yeah.
to win because the offensive improvements. I give credit to Rick Smith and Bill O'Brien for really loading up on the perimeter, putting fast guys there. If Brock Osweiler fails in that offense, it's on him.
As we wrap it, it's 100%. Wes, as we wrap it up here, give me your worst quarterback group in NFL history.
The one that you forgot about, 2004 San Francisco 49ers with Tim Rattay, Ken Dorsey, and Cody Pickett. They go 2-14, get the number 1 overall pick, and draft Alex Smith over Aaron Rodgers.
Gino Torretta and Carmazzi that they drafted in front of Tom Brady. Yeah, that was some dark stuff.
You got to go 07 Chiefs, though. Damon Heward, Brody Croyle, and Tyler Thigpen.
The Brody Croyle, the Hard
Alabama
Knocks
quarterback.
KC Chiefs thing, when Brody Croyle is battling it out with, who was
Hard
it?
Knocks. Damon Heward.
With Damon Heward, the back and
yeah.
forth, like, who's going to get the gig here? I mean, it's just sad to watch, especially in hindsight. At the time, you felt like, is that really that's as good as it gets?
But out of that year, we were introduced to the pistol offense. Chan Gailey.
That's true. Tyler Thigpen.
All right, great stuff. Chris Wesseling and Bucky Brooks, less contentious this time, which I appreciate. Wes, I owe you at least like 2 or 3 sandwiches. In the meantime, make sure you check out the great Around the NFL podcast with the fellas. And Wes, always doing gangbusters work at NFL.com as well on Around the NFL. Bucky and his fancy friend Daniel Jeremiah are taking a month away. The draft took it out of us. We need to rest.
Only a month?
Can you imagine
Only a month
what
and we're
prima
back.
donnas we have to work with? Bucky Brooks, though, always doing great work at NFL.com. Great conversation. A lot of buzz in the industry about Bucky Brooks all of a sudden. Oh, look how
All of a sudden, there should be buzz about Bucky
rising
Brooks.
star in the world of pro football media. All right, we'll be back. Well, I thought you were upset with me for saying that.
No, I can appreciate that. I like kudos.
I know now, now you're shutting it down for a month. We'll be back with more Huey and Applesauce later on. In the meantime, thanks so much, football fans. It's been a thin slice of heaven.